Hi there. House of the Dragon Season 3 filming officially began today, March 31st. And to mark it, HBO actually released a clip of Emma Darcy on set in full costume, formally announcing it with a clapper and everything. But they also marked the occasion with some new casting announcements, which we hope are the first of many. These ones for Roderick Dustin, aka Roddy the Ruin, and Torrhen Manderly. Roderick Dustin will be played by veteran actor Tommy Flanagan. He was in Braveheart, Gladiator, Sons of Anarchy, also Sin City, and a bunch of other projects. Veteran actor. You may remember that part in Braveheart where he killed Lord John Royce. Well, I claim the right of a husband. Whack. Well, Roderick Dustin, the character, is an old, grizzled warrior. That's why they call him Roddy the Ruin. He's an old, grizzled warrior who leads the Winter Wolves, that contingent of 2,000 elderly but battle-hardened Stark bannermen who go south to fight for Rhaenyra. That you saw Jace negotiating for that, and then in the Season 2 finale you saw them marching past the twins. They're heading south. These are men unafraid to die, preferring to go out with a sword in hand rather than starve in winter. Men who will volunteer to fight and die in the first wave and charge headlong into the enemy spear wall with no illusions about making it back alive. They're a suicide legion, if you will. They come south and join the Riverlord army assembling at Harrenhal, so expect Roddy to share scenes with Oscar Tully and the rest of those. Now, Ryan Condal himself noted in this announcement that he's aware Roddy the Ruin is a fan favorite. Quote, "I don't want to say much because I think this is one of those truly memorable Game of Thrones characters, and I'm excited to bring him into the fold. But he is a fixture in Fire and Blood, and I think he's one of those true fan favorites. I'm very, very proud of the role that we've written. I would like to say we've brought some northern spirit into our southern-based tale here," which is great. That there's not really stories happening in the kingdom of the region of the north, but northerners come south, like when Robb Stark's army comes south. And there are Stark bannermen and northerners who are important in this. Speaking of which, along those lines, the second northern bannerman who comes into the story that they cast, Torrhen Manderly. We already knew the character was in Season 3 due to that leaked cast list from the table read. We didn't know Roddy was in it. Now, we worried they might cut him. Now he is in it, but we knew Torrhen Manderly was in from that leak last week. Difference is now we know the actor, Dan Fogler. Best known for appearing in those Fantastic Beasts Harry Potter prequel movies as Jacob Kowalski, the friendly Muggle baker. And yeah, tonally, I think he matches the Manderleys pretty well. That they're prosperous and a bit overweight, but don't mistake that for stupid or not determined, that they're loyal allies like that. I already talked more about Torrhen when the role first leaked last week about the Manderleys, that Game of Thrones really shorted the Manderleys. They are major characters, a major faction in the books. They were cut entirely, barely name-dropped. One or two spear carriers pop up for a line or two. A TV-only audience wouldn't know who the Manderleys are any more than they knew who the Blackwoods and Brackens were before House of the Dragon, because they skipped over that to just focus on the people who can win Emmy Awards, so the world feels smaller. That a TV-only audience, would they even know that the Manderleys are the only major vassal house in the north who follow the faith of the Seven instead of the old gods? Because 1,000 years ago, they were actually an Andal family from the south, but 1,000 years ago, they were driven out of the Reach as exiles after losing a war, but as they were fleeing, the Starks gave them shelter in the north. So they're very loyal to the Starks, and in return, they built up this little port hamlet town into White Harbor, the only true city in the north. Yeah, it's the smallest of the 5 cities in Westeros. It's not wealthy. It's mostly prosperous from a brisk, fishing trade and stuff, but it is the biggest settlement in the north, and it's a major source of wealth and resources for the Starks. Their only ships, things like that. The Manderlys are really important in the books, and it's interesting that they're this mirror to the Blackwoods, just as the Blackwoods are the only really big vassal house in the South that still follows the old gods. The Manderlys are these guys who follow the faith of the Seven in the North, and the Starks tolerate it. Well, don't proselytize to people, as long as you do it in private, we don't really care. So it's this little outpost of the South in the North, and it's interesting when you read the descriptions of it in the book, because they actually visit it, all of which was cut from the show. Now, Torrhen Manderly, specifically, is the son of their current lord of White Harbor, Desmond Manderly. He probably won't be going with Roderick Dustin, though. He's actually a separate storyline. That Roderick goes with the land army. Torrhen goes directly south by ship to Rhaenyra's court as an envoy from his father, as a sign of good faith in their allegiance. So he'd be coming south on a ship. I think he's coming with Adrian Redford, who will join the Queen's Guard. I talked about that in other videos. And I also said, I think that, well, in the book, Torrhen is the second son. He has an older brother who later dies in a plague, so Torrhen's really the important one. I suspect they're going to merge them into one character so that Torrhen is the eldest son and heir in the TV show. I'm fine with that. The older brother isn't that big of a character. He dies anyway. Just heads up, they might merge. That doesn't really change the character. I'm feeling pretty encouraged about this, that this actor seems to match my mental image of a Manderly very well. That they're friendly, they're not this hard-looking, tough guy, but don't mistake that. They're very wealthy and powerful, they're clever and loyal. A lot like Sam Tarly in that respect. But after all the cuts we feared following Season 2, I'm openly surprised at the prominent castings they're making in subplots we thought that they'd short. I mean, we thought that even if they do the Riverlands storylines, these will be glorified spear carriers, played by extras. The mere fact that they're casting prominent actors as Roderick Dustin to lead the Winter Wolves, and that Ryan Condal is singling out, we wrote a lot of really good stuff for Roddy the Ruin. We are really getting that. They promised that openly. Similarly, they're expanding the subplot of Daeron and the Hightower army in the Reach. A lot more than we'd hoped. I also thought they'd gloss over that, but they're casting secondary characters like John Roxton and others. And particularly, you see how it's weighted, that we didn't just cast the role. If you cast an important veteran actor, that means they're devoting attention to it. They prominently cast well-known actor James Norton as Lord Ormond Hightower. Daeron's cousin, who's the Lord of Old Town, he's leading their land army. I mention this because, without getting into things, eventually the Hightower army does go head-to-head with the Winter Wolves, and there is this epic duel between Ormond Hightower and Roddy the Ruin, which is a real highlight of the book. So I'm really looking forward to that, and it seems like we're actually going to get it. We shall see. Now, this is all of the casting news that they gave today, these two fairly prominent roles. A lot more other news came out in the exclusive interview in Entertainment Weekly, where Ryan Condal talked about a variety of things. So I'm splitting that off. This was rushing it out because it's breaking news on the first day of filming. This is the casting news. Other remarks Ryan Condal made about things like Daeron, how structurally he wasn't really in the story before because he's in Old Town, how they're approaching things in Season 3. I'm going to split that off and analyze it in subsequent videos, you understand, for focus and length, because there's a lot more to parse out there. So please like and subscribe to catch my upcoming reports on everything else that Condal said.